Hey guys, welcome back. In this lesson here, Unit 8B, Subunit 1, Lesson 12, it's called the Layers of Autobiography. I'm going to get to the point of that lesson after I cover your assignment. Your assignment for this lesson is very, very simple. All you need to do is go to the very end and click on the solo activity. And just like the last one, you read an article. I believe this one is Franklin on Lightning. And you answer the multiple choice questions. It shouldn't be very difficult at all. So, again, slide number 11, the solo. Click on that. You with me, hey? Click on that, read this article, okay? And it is Franklin and Lightning. It's talking about his understanding of his experiments with lightning, and then answer the multiple choice questions. That's all that needs to get done. If you don't want to learn about the layers of autobiography, you can stop watching the video right now. But those of you who do want to learn it, I'm going to go ahead and explain a little bit because this is an interesting lesson. It's just a really difficult one to do remote. This is something that when we do it in person, it means a lot more. So here we go. Autobiography and biography. I want to kind of talk about Ben Franklin's idea to write his own biography, his autobiography. He, at this point, is a little bit later in life, and he kind of wants to comment on what he's done, who he's been, etc., etc. So if you go to slide number 3 here, it talks about his introduction, his autobiography. Again, he wrote this as a letter to his son. You have to understand his son is, so he had a son with a woman that he was not married to, and then that son moved away and went to England. Yes, the same England that America was about to declare independence from. The reason that's important is Ben Franklin's son has, quote, heirs of pretension, meaning he's trying to become in the aristocracy. He wants to be one of the rich, powerful, important people, okay? That very much goes against many of the things that Ben Franklin thinks, okay? Ben Franklin was very much a person of the greater good. He believed that he could help most people in his country and in his community by doing things like science and like libraries and like other forms of public good to improve the society. That was his whole shtick. That's what he was about. When he's writing this letter to his son, a big portion of it is kind of reminding his son, like, hey, look, I know that you've got this big ambition, these big dreams of things that are going to happen, and that's great. Good for you. Remember where you come from. Remember who we were. Because he talks a lot about himself whenever he was a young man and he first came to Philadelphia and he's running around and he gets the bread and he's broke. Remember, he didn't come from tons of money when he ran away from home. When he was at home, they were not broke. He got a cursory education. His brother ran a newspaper. I mean, they weren't poor, but when he ran away to live by himself, then he was definitely poor, okay? And he just wants to remind his son, like, there's more to it than just the money. Keep that in mind. The reason this is called Layers of Biography is that we have two different things that we're reading. We're reading Isaacson, who's a guy who's written many of the articles about Benjamin Franklin, and then we're also reading Ben Franklin himself. A biography is what Isaacson did. Isaacson is writing about Ben Franklin. He is not Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin, however, is writing about himself and his experiences. And so these perspectives are very different. And the reason I think that's important, guys, is just like in the Roald Dahl book, there's times that maybe he doesn't remember it perfectly. There's times that maybe he wants to tell this bit, but not this other part over here. And all of us do that, right? There's sections of our life that maybe we don't want to remember, we don't want to talk about, because maybe we're not proud of them. And then there's sections that we might embellish a bit to make it a little bit better than they really were. Does that make sense? That's the whole point of this lesson that we're talking about, is Ben Franklin, writing his autobiography, has these things, these assertions about himself. But Isaacson has different things that he's saying through research, through confirmed third-party reports. And so when you go here to number 6, and we're talking about Isaacson's commentary on Ben Franklin, I like this little article, and I recommend you read it because it gives a different perspective on Ben Franklin's arrival in Philadelphia. Again, when he runs away from home and he arrives in Philadelphia, he has that letter that he talks about how he looked, how he felt, his autobiography. And then here we have the another layer diving deeper into it and talking about it by Isaacson. So read this and think about these questions right here. Why would Franklin start his autobiography with a story about being hungry and poor? Remember, he's writing that to his son, but he's also writing it to a broad audience. He knows more people are going to read his autobiography than just his son, right? He knows that it's going to be a bigger work because he's very, very well known. That's sort of the point. You don't have to do the writing assignment, but just so that you understand what it was that the lesson is going for. On this slide, number 8 right here, it has a question. How does a secondary source, like Isaacson's biography, help us understand a primary source, like Franklin's own autobiography? The idea here, guys, is that Isaacson has the ability to do research, to have other people get involved, to be more factual, to not rely on maybe bruising his own ego. He can be very, very honest and say, this is what happened. I know that the other guy wrote it this way, but this is what really happened. Does that make sense? It would be like if somebody had a conversation with you about what they did over the weekend, and they said, oh yeah, well we did this and all these crazy snowball fights, and we built this giant castle that was like 25 feet tall, but you were there. We didn't do that. You might have a different version. And so if I came and I interviewed all of you, I'm going to get more of the truth than just that one person's story. That's the point. In addition, the other person who's doing it has the benefit of perspective. Again, not being in the middle of the story. He doesn't care what really happened. He just wants to report these are the facts. That allows us to have greater insight into what we're reading. That's the point of this lesson. I hope you guys understood it. Those of you that wanted to watch this part, thank you. I will talk to you guys very soon. See you for the next one.